All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of the Infinite Lorcana podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Berchioni. With me, as always, Zan Syed.
Yep, it's me, Zan.
Great. And then we also have very special guest, No I'm Not, a.k.a. Kendall. Kendall, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
We're super excited to have Kendall today. Kendall is one of the top killers in Atlanta, Georgia for Lorcana, and Atlanta, Georgia is actually the Lorcana capital of the world. All the best players, they come to Atlanta to play. That's just true. We've had the biggest Lorcana tournament to date, the Charlie's 8K. Zan obviously took that one. I wanted to start off, Kendall, I wanted to ask you, you've been playing this game since set 1. You gained a little bit of notoriety in the scene. How did you get started playing Lorcana?
I started playing Lorcana. I don't know, I released. I remember a long time ago, like seeing the D23 promos, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll try the game when it comes out. Didn't really pay much attention to it, and then the game released, and I was like, or actually, no, I found Pixelborn first before the actual game released, because Pixelborn was live prior to the game even releasing. So I tried it out there and was like, see if I like the game or not, and I liked the game. So then I ended up picking it up in paper when it first came out.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
he crushed me at the first F&M at Wasteland. He was playing purple red, and I was playing blue steel, like the starter deck.
Kendall, did you have any background in trading card games before Lorcana? Like, did you come from Magic? I know a lot of us did.
Yeah, I played Magic, was my main TCG, off and on for like 11 years or so. I played it also since I was a teenager, but when I first got out of the military, so I was like 22 then. It took me about a year to get into like competitive Magic, so I was like 23, and then so I was playing it off and on for about 11 years then. I've also tried other card games like in between then, but more casually. I did play Flesh and Blood for a little bit too, though.
Oh, nice.
That was the one that I never touched. I play every card game, but I somehow dodged Flesh and Blood.
We tried it out with Carter one time. At least I did. I played one game with him.
So for those of us that are
What
new
the
to this
fuck?
podcast, we usually like to start with a snapshot of the metagame, and Kendall's actually the perfect person to do that. If you don't know Kendall, you probably played his Ruby Amethyst decks. He's sort of a front runner, a trailblazer with Ruby Amethyst. Kendall, why don't you tell us where Ruby Amethyst stands in the metagame right now?
It is still, it's a top 3 deck in my opinion. I think with the new set that it's not as like dominant as it was like in set 1s and 2, but it's like still always going to be like a good choice. So I think that's good for the game, obviously, to just not have some deck that's 70% of the meta or something like that. It's definitely good that the new set has like opened up more viable decks. I think it's still always just like a good like safe choice. Even with like the TIA tournament this past weekend, it had the highest like conversion still for day 2. Obviously it didn't win, but yeah.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. When you're playing Ruby Amethyst, what are some matchups that you like hope to run into?
Other Ruby Amethyst players, always. And yeah, I mean, things have kind of changed a little bit. Like I would always say like I'd hope to see red blue, but they have since trying to come up with a bigger end game of using Lucky Dime. Same thing with blue steel. Like that matchup was a little easier for a while as well, but it really like as far as shifts in the meta, both the inclusion of Lucky Dime in both of those decks have made it like more difficult, still winnable. Yeah, but me personally, I'm fine playing against any matchup. Ones that don't really like to see the least, I still feel are winnable, are green steel discard and hyper aggro decks, which would namely be like yellow purple. And yeah.
Are you currently
I don't
playing
think
Teeth?
Yeah, I'm always on teeth. Um, I I don't know. I just can't drop the card. um, it is right, I think, in some tournaments to take teeth out of your deck. It's just kind of a personal preference, like what you expect to play.
Mm-hmm.
I typically just kind of be a safer like player and don't want to get caught with my pants down kind of thing. So like I just always would prefer to have that option, and it's inkable, so there's really not like a lot you're giving up, to have it in your deck.
Yeah.
And Zan, over the past week, what have you found? Any changes to the metagame? And also, I guess you could
Mm.
say, do you agree with the stance? Ruby Amethyst, sort of jack of all trades, maybe master of none?
I mean, I still think it's a rock paper scissors format. I think that probably before the 8K, purple red was like number one, and then probably now it's rock paper scissors. So I would say blue red or yellow steel is sitting at number one. I would say number one or number two, and then I would say purple red is number three. I feel like they really need a card that destroys items. Yeah, without that, I feel like it's gonna be a rough time.
Yeah, I think people will be in shambles if they print item destruction in either of those colors.
Oh yeah, and if it's a character and you can bounce it, it would be awful.
I'm Madam Mim, my naturalized back to my hand. So this is something that's unique to Lorcana because in Magic the Gathering, let's say you have, there's a powerful equipment, theme in the metagame. You could always splash that extra color to like play the naturalized. So do you think in a game like Lorcana where you can't ever really dip in and maybe make some sacrifices to the resource pool or whatever you have to do to like play those naturalizes. Do you think that they're going to hard lock Ruby and Amethyst, the color combination, from dealing with equipments? This is sort of like we're putting our game designer hats on.
You asking me or Zan?
This is for Kendall and then Zan.
Okay, yeah, for me, so yeah, let me put my game designer hat on for a second because I don't design the game. But I I am a fan of having color identities, much like in Magic. So right now, like so we have what we have. Silver is the obvious with like Binges and Beast, and then there's also blue has Judy Hopps as one. I think silver is mostly the color that's like tied to item removal. Um, I'm I am a fan of having some color identities, but I'm just not quite sure like how far you stretch that with your deck building restriction being limited to two colors. Like I think it is maybe okay to print some sort of item removal across the colors, but then it becomes very awkward because those just seem like obvious like auto includes in every deck. Um, so yeah, I mean it's interesting. Again, like I said, big fan of color identities, and myself as a red purple player, I would love some sort of item destruction. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah. And then Zan.
I think that I think that the form that it should probably take is closer to color identity. I do agree with that. There's some cards I think that should be in more colors just so we have more color combinations that are seeing play. I would say like so. There's befuddle, right? Befuddle can bounce items, correct? Or can it not?
I believe so, but it's cost one or less.
Yeah. So I was just saying like if they kept that theme, that would be kind of cool. If they had like a 2 mana character that could bounce things, I think that could cause a lot of issues for the item
Sorry,
players.
yeah, befuddle is two or less, but yeah, it can target items as well.
Okay, cool. So like if you had a 2 mana character that could bounce a item back to a player's hand, I think that would be like a really cool synergy, and it would tie into purple.
It's an interesting idea I hadn't thought of yet. Zan is different colors deal with items in different ways. I know Emerald has Wildcat. That's sort of their one card that deals with items, and that's an activated ability, an exhaust ability on a character. So I think that what I'd love to see out of Lorcana is they give every gem color a way to deal with the items, and they don't necessarily all have to be ETB zap it. Like blue gives them cards, purple bounces the items, emerald does tricky things. They're supposed to be the adaptable color. I think that could all make sense. I was just wondering, especially because, like I said, you can't necessarily splash. So Zan's view of the metagame, he has sort of uh, Ruby Sapphire and then Amber Steel at those sort of top two slots, followed closely by Ruby Amethyst. I noticed that both of you mentioned that maybe in the top three decks, two of them are super weak to hyper aggro, right? I think blue red wants to see hyper aggressive decks maybe the least.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ruby Amethyst probably shortly after that. I know that's one of the ones you have a lot of tools to deal with it, right? Teeth and Ambitions, a plethora of one drops that can even combine with maybe sometimes the 2-ink Pinocchio that taps something. But if you're still, after all that, a little bit fearful of hyper aggro, does that mean that hyper aggro might be a place to be moving forward?
I think not. I mean, I think that your aggro deck needs to have multi dimensions, and I think hyper aggro. Some of these hyper aggro shells don't have are not multi dimensional. Like they don't have like a solid game plan that can compete against one of these top three decks. Fourth is probably blue steel, right? But again, blue steel is like in the middle of all of this. It's some combination of all of these. So, yeah.
Okay, and then Kendall, is hyper aggro the place to be moving into the next week?
No, I don't think so. I think steel is such a huge part of the meta right now that you could get lucky and play a bunch of red purple and maybe some red blue, but there's just so much of it at any given tournament. I think that you're just probably running into steel, and those are just almost just auto losses.
And then the last question about the metagame is, do either of you two foresee any like big changes before the challenges coming up? Is there any like upcoming shift in the metagame, or are we playing right now the challenge format as it's going to be? 3 decks metagame. Start with Kendall.
Yeah, I feel like the 3 most popular decks for the challenges will be, in my opinion, I think it's yellow steel, blue steel, and red purple. I think those are the top 3 decks. And then shortly behind that would be green steel, blue red, and the green purple deck as well. And as far as like huge shifts, I don't think there's obviously going to be some new like undiscovered deck or something like that. I think this is pretty much the meta to expect going into the first Atlanta challenge. But obviously, like, the strategy might change just a little bit between these decks.
Yeah.
To combat each other.
I mean, yellow steel. I think yellow steel is going to have a bag of new tricks, and the one that I've been playing is a Pride Lands version, replacing the flute. And even though it's worse against purple red, your matchup against any steel deck becomes a ton better, because Pride Lands gives your characters 2 more defense, and then against blue red you have like a play of putting a Simba on Pride Lands. So Simba is a prince, so what that means is if it's a prince or a king, and it's at Pride Lands, you basically get 1 off of 1 less ink cost for each character. And basically, if you have a 1 cost character, you can play it for 0. So if you do it on turn 3 or you do it on turn 4, hooking it up to the Pride Lands, you can just empty your hand and cast Whole New World and empty your hand again. And like you didn't have that explosive draw before with the flute version, and with this explosive draw, I think that the blue red matchup has a completely different chance against it, right? Or or in the mirror match, you can play around like grab your sword, whereas they can't, and so it just creates a whole new level of play. So that's the deck I think that I'm gonna be pushing forward, and I think that I feel confident that I should at least be able to make top 8 of SCG, if not win.
It's coming up soon, right? Like 2 weeks.
April is it 14th?
13 and 14, yeah.
13.
Saturday is the 5K, and then have a 1K on Sunday.
Sweet.
Nice.
So we just heard this rumor. Kendall, you wanna spoil it here?
It's not a rumor. It was posted on Twitter.
On Twitter, yeah.
Tia Beastie, she's been holding the online Pixborn events every 2 weeks. She, like, literally right before recording this, probably said that she was going to be announcing the largest Lorcana tournament ever, and I'm assuming this means prize pool wise, because she has already, like, every 2 weeks held the largest Lorcana tournament. They just keep, like, breaking records as far as players go. So I'm assuming this means that it'll be larger than an 8K, which is what CCS held last month, and then, so yeah, we'll see. But that's also going to fall on the same weekend as SCG. So with hearing that news, now I'm, like, really conflicted. Like, do I stay home, or do I actually go out of my house and go play at an SCG?
It would need to be like at least a 20K for me to skip the SCG.
Yeah, SCGs are socially fun, you know, and also just being there in person, I feel like you get a bigger edge than playing online if you're a good player. I don't know why I think that, though. If anyone has any thoughts on that, I might just be completely tripping.
I think it's valid. I think there are a lot stronger players online.
I agree.
Yeah, and there's people from all around the world, so, like, you know, the Europeans, they're a little cracked.
Yeah, they are really good. I think that, I mean, in paper you also have, there's a whole aspect of, like, what is it called? You have to, like, pace yourself. People get really tired and start playing really loose, and I think that also it's like being on the big stage. I think that, like, a great example is, like, if you think about the NBA during the pandemic, they had the lockdown, right? And they had to play with no crowds, and there was, like, no home court advantage, and I think that played a big role in who ended up winning. I think the Lakers ended up winning, but Miami, which was an 8th seed, ended up making it all the way to the finals. And I think that not having the advantage of your home crowd and people supporting you and like no fans completely changes up the dynamic. So, like, I would say, like, when I was playing in the 8K and there's, like, you know, 10, 20 people watching, I think it definitely weighs on your opponents, and if you're more comfortable in that position, you can take advantage of it.
Kendall, do you ever crack under the pressure of spectators in the trading card game space?
No, I don't think so. I guess I used to. I've just played so long now that I would just I honestly just zone out while I'm playing and don't really pay attention to my surroundings.
Nice.
But yeah, I could see, you know, people obviously newer. Zan mentioned like a sort of like mental fortitude as well. Like, the days are really long, so the bigger the tournament is and the longer the day goes on, you're obviously just more, like, mentally fatigued as well.
Yeah, I watched Kendall play. He's a killer. I haven't seen him make, like, many mistakes at all.
Kendall beat you a couple of times, right, Zan?
I said that he beat me the first week, and then we played, I think, 2 more times after that, or 3 more times. I'm not sure. Do you recall? We played the mirror match in top 8 at CCS one of the times, and then I played Yellow Steel Songs in set 2 at CCS at another 1K, and
Swiss,
yeah, that was in Swiss. Round 4, we're both 3-0, and game came down to the wire. But I think that this is a new set, and so more cards means more decks I can play, and I'm gonna try and reclaim some of those losses against Kendall.
The good old days of set one's mono deck format certainly do elude us now, I guess. Kendall, you brought up that you would potentially play the online tournament, I guess, if the EV is higher than SCGs by a significant enough margin. That sort of brings me to my next thing I wanted to ask you with Lorcana. Zan and I talked about our goals last week. I talked about that I really wanted to play at the highest level. I want to play at the whatever the like world championship ends up being, whatever comes after the challenge. I like definitely want to play in that. That like would meet my goal. Zan's goals were a lot more like community and content like focused on what he wanted to build. For you, do you have any long term goals like that with regards to the Lorcana card game?
Yeah, I personally, I think I'm kind of like you. I would just like to try it out for about a year or so and try to reach like I guess like the highest stage, and that's currently I believe just nationals and worlds. So yeah, that would be like top fouring a challenge. Or is it top four or the finals? Anyways, qualifying for the larger events for Lorcana, and then see how that goes. Do it once, maybe get a check in the box, retire, or continue if I still like it. But yeah, that's currently I guess like my goals. I'm not that much of like a content creator or anything, so I don't have any goals in that area. But I would just like to play like on the highest stage. Like that was with Magic, like the whole goal was like, qualify for the Pro Tour, play in a Pro Tour or whatever. So I think with this right now is Worlds and Nationals.
Now you say you're not a content creator, but on my Pixelborn account, I have a deck labeled "No, I'm not RA." So I think a lot of people, if they're playing Ruby Amethyst, are sort of somewhat probably have come across one of your versions. So do you see yourself as like sort of a front runner or trailblazer for the Ruby Amethyst deck?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely in set two. As far as like maybe some people are familiar with the 20 Lore Discord. If you're not, I probably recommend joining it. But as far as that goes, I think for set two Ruby Amethyst, I kind of was. Set one, I came into like Pixelborn and Lorcana when it was kind of like already established, but I felt like by the end of set one, I had like a really good grasp on the deck, and I kind of knew it obviously changed, a little bit. So, made my own changes or whatever. So I do contribute in those aspects. I just meant as far as like streaming or making videos and stuff like that. That's not really what I do. And then for set three, as far as like new quote unquote like Ruby Amethyst information, Bannable Harka, another content creator, kind of beat me to the punch and put out his take on the deck that was pretty similar. And rather just like, creating a whole like separate thread and stuff like that, I just went with, this is basically the same hive mind of players and everything, and just kind of contribute to that.
I played against Bannable this weekend, and it seems as though he may have abandoned it. He played blue red.
Yeah.
So
as far as the Jund / Ruby Amethyst side goes, there's a lot of doomers currently. Again, I don't think that deck is bad. It's just obviously not as dominant as it was. It's always a safe choice, and it's always going to perform pretty well. But I don't know what people are expecting. They're expecting like set one Ruby Amethyst, where it was just like a no-brainer, like you need to play this deck, and this is the best deck kind of thing. But yeah, I think he played a red-blue this weekend.
Yeah.
Top forward.
So now you're the master. Now you're the guy for purple red. I mean, I've thought that you were the guy since set one. I legit was telling everybody I thought that set one, set two, you were the best player. You should have been invited to the Invitational. I think it was called the Apex Invitational. But yeah, we got to get your name out there. At least have you on the podcast. If the podcast ends up blowing up, then then you should get invited to those tournaments. Or maybe we'll host some tournaments. Who knows?
I agree with Zan. I think you're one of the names in Lorcana that people should at least know about as sort of one of the premier, definitely forerunners of Ruby Amethyst, and now potentially one of the only non-doomers. I mean, even Zan messaged me this week and was like, "Hey, I think you need to really be testing blue red," and so I've been playing a lot of blue red. I hate the deck compared to Ruby Amethyst. You just have so many more sort of like hand smoothing mechanics in Ruby Amethyst. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm just maybe addicted to like Madam Mim and Merlin the Rabbit, just sort of making it so I don't have to think too much about where all my cards are coming from. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of doomers out there. It's nice to see that you still hold Ruby Amethyst, to playable as a standard.
Yeah, I think it would have to take like a pretty big drastic change in the deck falling off, and I just don't think that has happened. The 8K that Zan won, I think there were still 6 Ruby Amethysts on the top 8.
Yeah.
And still top 8s, so there's someone, that has put out the complaint that like, oh, it can't close a tournament or something, but I think those are just that's like small percentages. It's
Yeah.
still like the highest, the most consistent deck, I think, and like again, like I said, that even this past weekend's online tournament showed like it had the highest conversion rate by like a lot. I think it was 6 decks, and then like the next was like 3.
Yeah, no, it is an amazing deck, and me suggesting that we play blue red. I just finished building blue red today, and the main reason why was because I felt like Jeremy and I couldn't learn anything else from playing the strategy. So like we've been going to Gubu, which is a local store here in Atlanta, to go to play like F&M, to play like Lorcana League on Friday. And I felt like there was like 1 or 2 blue red players that weren't playing at a certain level, and I feel like we may like create a bias that blue red isn't that great of a deck. And so I wanted to hand it to Jeremy and see if Jeremy could, teach all us yellow steel players a lesson. And so I kind of wanted to make it really hard, and I think that if I make it hard on myself and hard on everybody else, I think that all of us just end up actually becoming way better. So I just wanted to make Jeremy the boogeyman there. That's the main reason why.
Shouldn't I already be the boogeyman? I mean, it's not like I do bad in tournaments. I like usually end up in the money.
Oh, no. I was saying more so that everybody in that shop is playing yellow steel. So if you show up with blue red, it's like either yellow steel or green steel, and if you show up with blue red, I think that you just completely dominate them.
So Kendall, organized play got off to sort of like a rocky start, right? We have a new format, best of 2, coupled with maybe an auspicious prizing structure for the challenges. Do you think that course is going to stay the same? And then if not, what do you hope to see out of organized play?
I hope not. Yeah, I would say it was pretty rocky in my opinion, like you said. I don't know. It was a lot, and it came very fast. I think they first started out. Here are the challenges. By the way, there's a 512 person cap, and also by the way, you're going to be playing in this new 2-game format. So as it stands right now, like, I'm currently not a fan. The 512, like, I was excited, like, they announced the challenges, and the first one being in Atlanta. I was like, oh, that's sick. It's 30 minutes for me, I got online to buy a ticket, and they were sold out in, like, 3 seconds. Like, I hit the refresh page once, and then, like, I couldn't even put a ticket in my cart. They say that they're trying to work out raising the caps. Hopefully they do before Atlanta, like before Atlanta actually. I'm not a fan of having like a qualifier event like that having, I guess, that low of a cap. maybe they could have taken their time a little bit more and had like smaller feeder tournaments that like qualify you for a challenge, and then you play in that challenge for a chance to get an invite to the next part. Uh, but yeah, 512 just seemed a little too low. I think everybody thought that. And I understand there are venue constraints and you have to have some sort of cap, but I think from us playing Magic, we were used to, like large, like 1,000+ person GPs, and I don't ever remember there being any sort of question like, "Hey, you need to get a ticket for this GP because it's gonna sell out." And it was just kind of like all of those venues just normally can just hold, 2,000 people or whatever. So I understand. I understand having some sort of cap, but yeah, 512 was a little low.
So for the tournament to sell out as fast as it did, I was thinking about that too. The biggest GP we ever had, it was like something like Grand Prix Charlotte. There was like 2,300 or whatever players. But I feel like, do you think that because it's like a Disney licensed thing, like, okay, basically, if there was no cap, how many tickets do you think they would have sold?
I would guess over 1,000 easily, maybe around the 1,500 mark. But I'm not an expert. That's what my guess would be if there was no cap. I do think that all of the like the participation in promo and stuff had maybe a lot to do with it. If you have no cap, you probably just have like Disney people. Which that's not an issue. Like Disney people just signing up for it to get like these promos, because the game does have like collectability outside of just being a TCG for TCG players and stuff like that. There's people that don't even play the game that just like Disney that collect all of this stuff. Um, so, but yeah, I think it could have easily been anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 people.
My like initial estimation was like a lot higher. I'm thinking if it sold out in 30 seconds, I mean, there might have been people that wanted to sign up like the next day or had just heard about it a little bit later, So I don't even. I think like we barely scratched the surface with regards to Lorcana. It's surprising to me that the game has such sort of widespread appeal, but I really do think the player base is just that much bigger.
Yeah, I would have guessed like it would have been 2,000 easy. And I think that, dude, Atlanta can support it. Like the Atlanta venues can easily support 2,000 players. I mean,
it's tough for me to buy. Like, it's the same weekend as MomoCon. Everybody here knows the Cobb Galleria was right there. Like that place can hold 3,000 people. We see it every year with Anime Weekend Atlanta, which I go to every year. By the way, so yeah, I think it was just like a weird planning thing. But this reminds me a little bit of Set One's card availability issue, where it's just like for some reason, Ravensburger just gets to say like, we didn't know how big it was going to be, like just forever. They just always get to say that.
Yeah, they definitely took a very conservative, I guess, approach, playing it like very safe. So
yeah, I mean they basically sold that spot, right? Like, so PPG is managing it. So if I had to guess, they probably signed like a contract, and that contract dictates like how much they're going to spend, right? Like, so they probably were like, oh, the largest tournament that's happened so far has been like 250 players, so we're just going to double that. And that was their contract. And so it's probably like an ongoing negotiation type of thing, right? And it's probably not in the contract. So if I had to guess, it probably has to do with, yeah, I think that if Ravensburger was dealing with this issue directly, that we would have already had a solution. I feel like their behavior has shown that they definitely want to please the audience to a certain degree,
Interesting. Moving to another subject. I'm an only child, so I always get so fascinated with sibling relationships. Kendall, you play a lot of these tournaments with your brother. What's that like? And has Lorcana maybe even like brought you closer to your brother, or do you guys spend about the same amount of time together?
Yeah, so I got my brother into it. again, like he didn't play Magic with me or anything prior to this. It was just like it was a new thing, and he had some things going on and stuff like that. So I decided to just like invite him out to like the league nights and stuff, and he's gotten into it, and it's cool to see like the new player kind of thing, like enjoy like cracking packs and stuff like that. Like that is kind of like rubbed off on me now, but he likes gambling and stuff like that, like opening up packs and stuff. So yeah, I mean it's been cool. Going to events and stuff with him like that, it's not like we would be going out probably spending time together outside of a tournament. So yeah, we see each other a little more. Like we live pretty close, but like other than communicating, like cross text, Discord, whatever, just another chance, I guess, to see him outside of like going over to the grandparents or something like that.
Yeah, it was a blast going to CM games with you guys. We went to Bucky's twice. It was lit.
I'm like locked in for the next trip that you guys go that goes through a Bucky's. I got the fever. I kind of got over Bucky's over the holidays because I went so much, but now it's been 3 months. So I'm like, well,
Yeah, we went there for breakfast and for dinner. It was like the best. It was the best day ever. And we both top four split. It was the sickest.
And so, Kendall, maybe almost lastly, I wanted to ask you, what's the spicy new tech? Ruby Amethyst, what are we doing to bring it back from the grave? Is the brave little Taylor in your 60s?
No, not the brave little Taylor. Minnie Mouse, though, I think is probably a good choice to be on. People originally were cutting Minnie Mouse just because of the introduction of Medusa, but I think you get pretty good value out of Minnie Mouse before you even have to worry about a Medusa. So yeah, I like Minnie Mouse, and I kind of like I've seen them. If you go and look back on the tournament this past weekend, I think Erebos plays pretty highly. I do kind of like the look of that deck, at least where it's going. Played like 10 1-drops and 4 Cuscos, 4 Minnie Mouse, and 4 Crabs. So like you really are just like curving out like 1, 2, 3, 4. That helps a lot with against like the red-blue decks and both the steel decks, blue steel and yellow steel. So yeah, I like Mini Surfer. I don't like Brave Little Taylor. It's a nice collectible card though.
You heard it here first, folks. The Taylor is out of business. And Kendall, I saw some people in Atlanta were playing Pascal's is a 4 of. Is that your introduction? And do you stand by that?
That is not my introduction. I think Pascal can be a good tempo option against when you expect a lot of the mirror. Personally, I was not a fan of it when I expected to play against more steel. But yeah, against like the mirror, into the mirror a lot in red-blue. So if the steel decks somehow die down a little bit more, like I think Pascal is a fine option as a 1-drop that people might have forgotten about. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I still have my playset in foil, so I'm ready to sleep on sometimes if I need to.
That's interesting that you'd say that. Zan sort of has a theory that your foil cards keep you prisoner a little bit. They make it hard for you to switch decks or switch plans on the fly. Is there any credit to that?
No, so if you're talking about deck choices, Ruby Amethyst is like the only deck I own in paper, so I can't just like I'd have to go through the whole mumbo jumbo of like borrowing a whole deck and stuff like that if I thought I wanted to play a different deck. But if I decided to make like last minute deck changes to my Ruby Amethyst deck, and I had to play non-foils, like I would.
Yeah.
I'm not prisoner to that. I guess just the good thing is I have most of the red purple cards and foils, so.
You I mean, I think that you have access to pretty much everything you need with your brother, right?
Yeah, I mean, Tyler has definitely opened a lot and has like a much bigger collection than me.
Dude, he has a PSA 10 enchanted Elsa.
Yeah,
That's
he
crazy awesome.
much like the new player luck kind of thing. Like he cracked open enchanted Elsa when he first started playing, and then got it graded PSA 10. Sits on his desk.
That's so it's so insane. That's like the Charizard of Charizards in this game right now.
Yeah, I think he might be a prisoner to Lorcana in that regard. That since he's opened that like that high from just opening that card specifically, and now he just has an addiction to opening packs.
So,
do you think he's ever going to sell the Enchanted Elsa, or does it simply exist as an expensive, maybe shackle?
He's looked into selling it one time. He likes the idea of just going opening up product, going positive, and then finding that for the next set of product to open. But I think he just didn't like the price it was at or something when he went to sell it. So he since has held on to it. And I told him, I was like, I'm pretty sure you can sell it now for that money, but like if you don't need the money, like hold on to it for like 5 or 10 years. I don't know. Like when we went up to CM Games in Knoxville, and I was like, there's this PSA 6 Charizard in the case for like 15 grand, and that's a PSA 6, So it's just like, I'm not saying it is, but it could be, and if you don't need it right now, then there's really no downside.
Makes sense to me. Totally checks out. Zan, do you have anything to say? Potentially, you could call them final statements from Zan Syed.
oh, just I actually have a question for Kendall. Okay, so what would it take in your testing to switch decks? Like, what would need to happen? What are the conditions?
I don't know.
What? You gotta tell me. You gotta tell me. So I can send you the message when it's time. And I'm like, hey, dude, I got the deck. I met all your criteria.
Like I don't know. That's with the format right now. Like I said, there's 3 decks that I think you can't go wrong with, and then there's like another 3 decks that are pretty close to that. So it would have to. I'm trying to think of it would have to be it would have to be a new set at this point. I think the new set would have to like change something up like pretty drastically.
Okay.
I don't think I'm switching decks for the rest of the set.
Really? Dang.
Yeah,
okay. I was about to like hit you up. I was about to be like, hey, dude, I got the stats. I got exactly what you need. I got like.
No, I think it's like the next set. In any of the future tournaments, I'm playing red purple.
So I'm gonna tell you why I'm trying to convince you so hard to play what, like, let's say if I have a deck, right, and I think that like I'm meeting that criteria. I think that your one of the strengths that you possess is fine tuning. So like let's say I created like a deck, but it's not tuned right in the correct way. Figuring out those like last 5 to 10 cards to have the best version of the deck, I think that that's like a really strong strength of yours. So I think that if I was to convince you to play a deck that might be a little bit off the wall but has the stats, and I handed it to you and was like, hey, test this and tell me what you think, and you made those changes, I think that like that deck has a much higher chance of winning the tournament. So yeah. I just wanted to say that just wanted to pay a compliment to one of your strengths. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I feel like that. I'm not really an innovator. I can tune a deck, I guess.
Yeah, but that's a different type of innovation, right? There is innovation in tuning decks, right? Like if there's 1, 2, 3, 4 cards you haven't thought of that give you an edge in the mirror match or give you an edge in specific matchups. That's still innovating. It's just not in like the way that people think generally is innovation.
Maybe I shouldn't use innovator, but I'm not a deck builder.
Mm-hmm.
Deck builder.
But yeah, I want people to ask your opinion in the Discord in Club Lorcana whenever there's a question about purple red and they can't get to an answer. Because I'm always seeking your answer for purple red. What is the answer? All right, that's it for me.
That's all we had for the show. I mean, we're all ready to wrap it up. Kendall,
yes.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, please. If you have anything to say, anything to add, please add it. Thank you so much for having. Yeah.
Currently, I have no ads. You can always find me lurking in Stan's Club Lorcana or the 20 Lore. Or you can see me post sometimes on Twitter. And my Twitter is @actual no I'm not, capital A, capital N. Not sure if that matters, but
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, I can. Normally, I respond to questions on my tweets. Yeah, I'm always happy to answer some questions.
Sweet.
All right, thanks so much. And Zan, final statements. Where can people find you?
I mean, Club Lorcana @Syed on Twitter.
And the YouTube channel that you're on right now. And then for me, you can find me @MoxJeremy, MOX Jeremy on Twitter. And here, and then soon I'm going to be uploading my own card game content. And I might have some cool content planned for you guys with the new Star Wars Unlimited card game. The Grand Inquisitor deck we have worked up seems like it's a step ahead of what everyone else in the metagame's doing. But for now,
don't tell me you're playing Star Wars already.
Yeah, we love Star Wars. We're Star Wars guys.
I've heard good things. I haven't gotten to try it yet.
Oh, you got to play with us. We got decks. Well, Jeremy's got decks, but
I got 2 decks.
Do you have the Burdette deck?
Maybe 3 or 4 on Friday because I'm trying to get most of the meta decks together.
Yeah, come to Gubu. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.